Alright, quick tutorial on how to get custom weapons into squad and stuff. Alright, so basically first you want to go in your SDK. Think of a weapon that's fairly similar to the one that you want to put in. So if you're doing a pistol, you're going to want to grab like the M9. If you're doing an assault rifle, you're going to get like the M4. If you're doing something like heavy, like an LMG, you're going to get like the M249, and if you're going to do sniper rifle that's like really long, you're going to get the sniper rifle. So I have a thing that's kind of similarish to an assault rifle. I'll just import it real quick. This thing, right? This is already rigged. I'm just gonna pretend it isn't. So yeah, to rig it, we're gonna go to UE4 first. We're gonna go art items. We're gonna find the M4. M4. All right, and then we're gonna find its skeletal mesh. Right, so this one works. There's a lot of them, but any will do. Right-click it. Asset actions. Export. Put it in your folder where you're doing stuff. Save it. See, I've got M4 FBX here. I'm going to put that in this folder here. Alright, so then we go back into our Blender scene where we've got our weapon that we want to put in squad. When we go, we're gonna import the M4. First, I'm just gonna move this one out of the way. File, import, FBX, M4. So here's our M4. So you can see that there's a bit of a scaling issue going on here right now. So I'm gonna yeah add a armature here, and I'm gonna select this whole gun and parent it to the armature with empty groups. So now when I move the bone, it moves the whole thing, right? So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make it about the same size as our M4. Probably want to get measurements of how big your gun is instead of just scaling it around like you want to get it like the actual scale. I'm just going to guess that my gun's probably going to be this big. Move it back over. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna move it. So you're gonna make your gun overlap as much as possible with the M4, right? So that the grip of both guns is in the same position. So your grip is in the same slot as the M4's. So then you're gonna select the M4. You're gonna put your cursor on its origin, right? Shift S, cursor to selected. And then move it out of the way. Select your armature with your cursor still on the same spot. Actually, yeah, the origin's going to be in the middle, right? So just move your cursor to the middle of the thing. Then select your new armature, and then make your origin the same as the M4's, right? So it's going to be object set origin to 3D cursor. So now these have the same origin, right? They rotate around the same angle. That's important. Then you're just going to want to rig it. I hope you know how to rig, because I'm not going to explain it. You just rig the whole thing. You know, you stick the bone in, you weight paint the whole stuff. I've already done it. You kind of make it look like this, right? Once you've weight painted it, right, the whole thing, you've got your magazine in, you've got your trigger, bone, and so on. Once it's all weight painted, it should look like no. It should look like this. So you got all your bones. Doesn't really matter which direction they're pointing. You see, I've got a bone for the magazine. I've got a bone for the mag release. I've got a bone for the trigger. I've got a bone for the fire selector. I've got a bone for that thing and this thing. The little things that move like that. that's all the bones that I thought I needed for this. So yeah, they're all here. So what you're going to want to do then is you're going to want to make sure that the object is named weapon root up here. Make sure it's weapon root. And then you're going to make sure this is also weapon root, not that this really matters, in the running guide tab. And you're going to make sure that all the bones have like a parented bone, the base bone. And this base bone that has all the bones parented to it, I recommend you have it point out to the left, and that if you go here, viewport display and axes, that the X is pointing forwards. That helps you when you're setting up attachments inside of UE4 to have it on this orientation. So then you're going to make sure your armature is pointing in that X positive direction. So if you hit 7 on your keyboard to get the top view, it should be pointing to your right. Then you're going to make sure that this is the correct scale rate compared to the M4 from earlier. So you're going to make sure you're going to scale it up by 100. I know this sounds really weird to scale it up by 100. You're going to apply the scale so that it's 111 now, and then you're going to shrink it back down by 100. Oops, that's too far. So yeah, so the scale is 0.01. Really weird, but when you import the M4, it's also 0.01. This because Unreal works in centimeters and Blender works in meters for its units, so you gotta convert it. There's another way of doing it, which I'm not gonna get into, but that's where you set the units here to 100. But whatever. So once that's all done, it's pointing in the right direction. Make sure you apply the rotation too. Yeah, then you select everything. You go File, Export, FBX, and then you go to the folder that you're doing stuff in. You name it cheese. Then you want to make sure that geometry is edge and armature is not adding leaf bones, right? You export that. So then you go into the fancy Blender squad rig thingy that I threw together. This is a newisher one. It's already got the base pose applied to it and the guy. You're going to want to import your weapon. Import cheese.fbx. So here it is. And you're going to go into its constraints tab here when you've got the armature selected. This little thingy, yeah, this tab, the constraints tab for the whole thing, not the bone constraints, the all constraints. And you want to make an add copy rotation, and then select this root, and then type into this bone thing weapon 1, and you want to select bipedal 1 weapon 1, not R bipedal 1, just the normal one. And then you're going to do the same thing for location. So yeah, you do this, you select the root, and then you just copy that, paste it here. Make sure you get the right one. And it should pop up in his hands. And if you go in first person, it will be in the ADS pose, which is interesting. So yeah, you just kind of move it around like you want now. I'd recommend just deleting his head since we don't need it. So yeah, now you just kind of animate your shenanigans. So I'm just going to put him here. Yeah, another thing I should probably explain. The orange bone, these square things, these are parented to the gun bone, right, which is this thing. They're parented to that. But if you wanted to take the hand off, right, off the gun, you use this slider here. So if I slide that down, then you see this yellow circle has control, right, and now the bone won't rotate it. So you see if I move this like this, and I slide this up, you see how it's going to slowly move towards that red bone again? This one. So that's how that works. These things. This thing here on the side, you don't really have to pay attention to that first person, just kind of leave it. But basically what it's doing is you have these yellow bones. You see how this one's not moving the foot right now, but if I move these over to the right, then it enables it. Now it does move the foot, but if you're just doing first person animation, just leave it how I did it on import. So yeah, just move Move the gun to where you want to move it, move the hands where you want to move the hands. With this red bone here, just kind of put it in an acceptable pose. Oop, got two things selected. These finger bones, you can scale them to make the fingers get bigger and smaller. And in these things you can also move about. You kind of got two options. If you don't like this and you want to use FK, then you can turn these off. Make sure you keyframe it, right? Make sure you insert a keyframe if you're turning these off. And then you can use these on this bone tab here. You can move them individually if you want to do that, if you're into that. I like them on though. Oh, also, by the way, you should probably know there's bone tabs. Bone layers, sorry. So this bone, in the running guide tab, if you've got the skeleton selected, you can see here, there's bone layers, right? So this first one, these are all the FK bones. You see when I'm moving these, it's forward kinematics. And this is all the bones that you don't really need to pay attention to that much. Like the twist bones are automatically calculated. There's a whole bunch of face bones that don't get used. Nub bones on the fingers, some other stuff that gets automatically calculated. This should be, one of these should be getting, it's fine. Just do first person animate. This, yeah, so you only need to, the only bone layers you really need to touch though are these two. These ones here. Yeah, these ones. For full body animations, you want to start using these, but I'm not sure if this rig is ready for that yet. It's a long story. Anyway, I'm going way off tangent. Basically, what you want to do is you're going to want to put your guy, this is like the 5th time I've done this now, in this pose, while the space pose animations here selected. Yeah, put the guy in his pose. Move the red bone. There. Move this thing here. Scale his fingers in and move them. You get the idea. Just kind of cheese stuff. I'm rushing it right now, so this is gonna look atrocious. This is not how I... Yeah. So you get the idea. It's kind of looking something like something now. Whatever. Yeah, it works. So that's that. If you look at it from first person, it looks kind of alright. Select everything, keyframe it. So that's our base pose, right? So we've got the base pose. So we can dupe the base pose with this little button here in the action editor. And we can call this ADS. Then we're going to want to select the camera, viewport display in the camera tab here. Composition guide center, right? See, that's the center. So that makes this really easy for us. I can just move this over here. Kind of line these sights up. Just put the weapon bone in the middle. Don't have to move the hands or anything. Keyframe everything here. So now we've got, if we go back here, this little drop down, you can see we switched to base pose and ADS. So these are two different animations, right? You guys can figure out how to do reload and so on your own. It's not that big a deal. So what we're going to do now is we're going to delete that. So in this thing here, the NLA editor. So you can think of the NLA editor like a video editing application. Like I can push down the ADS thing. You see I can move it forwards and backwards. I can select the base pose and push it down with this button here too. And you see I can put them behind each other. Now he's in the base pose, and if I move here, he's going to be ADSing. You get the idea, right? It's like video editing software, but then for animations. So what we're going to use it for is for the exporting. We're going to get the base pose, push it down, get the ADS pose, push that down. So they're on their own little tracks, and then we're going to get the export pose and leave that, right? We're going to leave him in the export pose. So he's in a perfect rest pose while exporting. So then we're going to select the skeleton, hit file, export. Make sure the skeleton is selected, by the way. Just the only thing selected. File, export, FBX. Name your thing like A care, and then like the name of your gun, so like PP or whatever. And then you're gonna want to set up a bunch of settings. So you're gonna make selected objects, armature, nothing to do with transform, don't have to touch geometry because we're only exporting animations. Armature, do not add leaf bones, and only deformation bones, right? And then in bake animation, we're gonna want to untick all actions. Then you're probably going to want to save this. If this plus button up here, you can type a thing here, save it, and then you can, there's like presets and it'll fill all of these settings out for you, which makes it a lot faster. So you export this. Now this will export all your things that you push down here, and it will be ready to be imported in the squad, which you kind of do. Like, I'm not actually going to import it now, but you get the idea. You just get a care PP, drag it in, and you make sure it's on the test skeleton. You don't have to change anything else other than that. And you just hit the import button, and it imports it. All their separate animations. You should be good. Weapon animations you have to export separately. Yeah. That's about it. That's about how you use the rig. You're welcome. I'm probably going to redo it at some point. Same goes for this tutorial. This tutorial was horrid. I didn't do any pre-planning with it. I just kind of... Yeah, alright, I'm rambling again.